Are you an independent woman who's getting ready to make a new home purchase on your own? Or are you just a busy woman who's going to be the primary decision maker in the next home purchase for your family? Stay tuned because I have a list of 12 tips for independent women who are looking to buy a new home. So the channel is Living in Northern Arizona, where I will teach you everything there is to know about buying a home in Northern Arizona. My name is Dickenson and I am a realtor here in Northern Arizona, and I sell real estate in Sedona, Verde Valley, Flagstaff, and Prescott. So if you ever have a question about buying or selling a home, please feel free to go to the description below and get my contact information and send me a text, an email, or even a Zoom call. You can go and schedule that in my website, and I would love to talk to you about real estate. But let's get going with the 12 tips for women who are looking to buy a new home by themselves. So the first thing you want to do is explore the areas where you are thinking about living. Do you want to stay in the same neighborhood or the same community that you are at currently, or do you want to move somewhere, a new exciting city, someplace that you haven't been before? So things to consider is, do you want to be home close to your children or to your grandchildren that might want to keep you in your current location, or do you just want to go someplace new and kind of start a new life? Those are all things to consider. If you're thinking of moving to a new city, I would suggest going to YouTube and just doing some searches on people who live in areas where you are thinking of going to. There are lots of places where you can do a pros and cons video of living in certain towns, and that can give you a lot of information so you can decide in advance if it might be someplace that you would want to live. Number two is to evaluate your financing options. So there are a couple things to consider. One is, do you have a home to sell that will have a lot of equity? Do you want to roll that equity into a down payment for your next home purchase? Or do you have so much equity in your current home that you can buy your next purchase for cash? So those are all things that you have to consider. I would suggest that you reach out to a loan officer and get some advice if you're thinking of financing a home. Of course, if you have enough that you can purchase it for cash, that's always nice. You could purchase a home for cash now and later on decide you're going to finance the home. So those are all types of options that you want to work through. Again, though, if you're thinking of financing it, I suggest you reach out and talk to a loan officer right away. Now, if you are looking in Arizona, say, and you don't know a loan officer, I have several people that I work with often, and I can send you to somebody who can do a loan for you if you're looking in the state of Arizona. So number two is very important. Think about, do you need to sell stock or some other investment in order to buy your next home? So if you do need to sell stock, one thing for certain I would recommend is about a month before you're ready to look, you actually sell the stock, just in case there's some variation in the stock market that would squash your plan, like right when you're in the middle of the home shopping. That is bad. So of course I would say reach out to your financial advisor if you're thinking of divesting one of your current investments. But one thing to be aware of is that if you talk to your financial advisor, they are likely to say, if you're going to sell, $500,000 of stock to buy real estate, that will likely get them upset because they're biased. They don't want you to take your money out of their control and put it into real estate where they have no control. A financial advisor is going to be a little bit biased if they're, a stock broker. Now, I'm not trying to say your financial advisor is a bad person. It's just that people who go into stock trading careers are often biased. They like the stock market, and that's why they went into that career in the first place. Just like I like real estate. That's how I became a realtor. So if somebody asks me, who am I better off to buy $500,000 worth of stock or buy a $500,000 rental property, I'm always going to say rental, probably because I like real estate. I think it's interesting. I try to buy homes myself because I am biased towards it. So just keep that in mind when you would consult your financial advisor. Probably going to be a little bit biased, but it's still an important thing to do, especially if you're thinking of selling stocks. So the next thing you need to explore is, do you want to downsize to a smaller home, or do you want to stay in about the same size that you're in now? So if your children have grown up and moved out and you're an empty nester, or if you were recently divorced or recently widowed, it might make sense for you to downsize. It'll be a little bit of a pain in the neck to get rid of stuff, but sometimes downsizing and going through all your stuff and getting rid of things that you don't need is an advantage. It will force you to declutter. You won't have to store as much stuff if you get rid of things that you haven't used in a long time. So downsizing could be a good option. Also, having a smaller home with less space to clean, maybe a smaller yard without as much maintenance, maybe taking a house that had a pool and selling it and getting rid of the pool, getting a community pool. Those could be all good options, downsizing for your future plans. Number 5 is consider your retirement plan. How close are you to thinking of retiring? That might make a difference. Maybe you want to move closer to the grandkids or your kids rather than move away from them. In my case, I ended up moving in Sedona because I thought I'm going to retire in 10 years. Say when I was moving here, I'm thinking maybe I'll retire in 10 years and where do I want to be when I retire? So I bought the home in Sedona thinking I could be already here when it's time to retire. But there are other things in mind, like say other people might want to be in an area that costs less than they currently live because they'll have either a lower mortgage or able to buy a home for cash. So if you're getting set up for retirement, if you're within 10 years of retirement, having your location or your options based on your future retirement plans could be good in the decision to buying your next home. So number 6 is to think of the home features that are relative to your age. If you're over 50, it might be important to buy a house that's only on a single level to avoid having to climb the stairs. The other things that you might want to consider is sometimes here in Sedona, you see a lot of the houses that have handrails in the shower, handrails in the bathroom, and that can be helpful as you get older to keep you from falling. An accidental fall can have terrible implications on your health. Maybe a stall shower rather than a tub is something that would be better for you, but those are the types of features that you want to look for when you're buying your next house if you're over 50 or over 55. And of course, it also depends on how long you expect to stay there. If you're just turned 50 and you think I'll only be here 5 years, it might not matter, but as you age, those stairs get to be really cumbersome, and it might be something just to think about when you're looking for your new home. So number 7 is very important. It's to consider the safety features of the home. So for instance, location of the home is very important when you're thinking about 70. I would do some research on which neighborhoods have high crime, maybe look into the local police reports in the area. If your house is on a busy corner, that could be a red flag that there could be safety issues. If your house has a back wall that faces to like an alley or a park or something where somebody can easily scale the wall to get into your home, that's a safety feature. If your house has big windows that have no window coverings, strangers can see into the house, that's a safety consideration also. But things like that you can fix. You can put up new blinds, but the location of the house being on a busy corner or having a wall that has an alley where people can scale the wall, those are things to all think about, and safety is very important, especially if you're a woman living by yourself. Number 8 is if you are over 55, would you like to live in an age-restricted neighborhood? That can be very nice, especially if you live alone, because you're going to be next to like-minded people who are your same age. You might have the same interests. A lot of these communities have weekly or monthly gatherings, events, holiday events where you'll have potlucks or you'll have bingo or you'll have parties and activities. Maybe you'll have pool aerobics, that kind of stuff. So an age-restricted neighborhood could be nice if you're especially a single woman. The other thing that might be nice about an age-restricted house is sometimes the prices are lower. So those are things to think about. But of course, there are negatives also. If you have kids that may end up needing to move back home with you, that could be a negative. I have a whole video on pros and cons of living in an age-restricted community. So that's something to think about as well, especially if you're a woman living by yourself. All right, number 9 is very important. You need to find an experienced realtor who knows the area where you're looking to buy. So a couple of things are important about this. One, of course, knowing the area that you're looking in. That person who is an agent will be able to find you just about what you want if you have an in-depth conversation of what your needs are. Sometimes you might not even know what you want, but if you say, oh, I'm looking for something safe, or I'm looking for something that has a nice sense of community, or I'm looking for something in an area that's close to the Costco. I know that's kind of funny, but I do get a lot of people that say it has to be near a Trader Joe's, and then I'm like, well, you can't live in Sedona then. So find an agent that kind of clicks with you, who knows the area. Find an agent who will listen to you and listen to what you're looking for rather than push what they think you need onto you. That's also very important. Another thing is find an agent who you're going to be comfortable sitting in the car alone with them and going into homes alone with this agent. You don't want somebody that's going to creep you out a little bit. Not that that happens. I'm just saying definitely look for somebody that you feel like you have a personality. Okay, number 10 is that you need to consider the tax implications of your next purchase. So there are a couple things to consider here. One is if you are selling a home, if you've been in it for less than 2 years, it's possible that you'll have to pay capital gains on the sale of that home. So make sure you talk to your tax accountant, make sure there's not going to be any kind of a tax penalty because you sold it too quickly. Because if you list your home and it goes under contract and you realize, oops, crap, if I would have waited 6 months, I'd save $50,000 in taxes. It's too late to go back. Once you're under contract, it's very hard for the seller to get out of the deal. So know that before you list if there's any possible tax implications. The other thing is if you're going into a new city, it may have very high property taxes. So one example I want to say is like Texas. I know a lot of people are moving to Texas, but Texas does have very high property tax, especially if you're considering moving from Arizona. Say Arizona does have reasonable property tax. If you would move to California or Texas or New Jersey, you're going to be like, whoa, you know, that's quite a difference. And if you have no mortgage, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to escape. But no, your property tax could be as much as a mortgage is in some of these other states. So explore your tax implications for your next purchase. That's very important. Okay, number 11 is consider the maintenance requirements for the new home. So if you are moving into a home and it's got a big, beautiful green lawn, you're going to have to mow that. And I know as we get older, it's difficult to do the yard work that we were able to do easily when we were younger. So consider that type of maintenance. Is the home older? Is it going to need to have a new paint job in a few years? Is it going to need to have a new roof? Is it going to need to have a new air conditioning? Again, these things aren't tragic, but if you're on a fixed income, it could be very important to find something that's newer or that has been recently had those types of things fixed so that you don't get this big bill in about 5 years that, oops, you know, $18,000 for a new roof or $7,000 for new air conditioning. The other thing is if you have a house with a pool, say, you're going to have maintenance, you're going to need a pool service. If you can do it yourself, that would be fine. But I know whenever I had a pool, I was never able to get the chemicals correct. So it could be a big maintenance. The other thing about a pool is if you live alone, there's the safety issue. You could fall in and drown. Unfortunately, I've known someone that happened to. So the maintenance and that type of a thing on your home is very important to consider when you're looking for a new home. And the last thing I want to bring up is, do you have pets? Do you have pets you want to bring to a new home? Do you have dogs, cats? I actually have a bird, so I have a couple of dogs and a bird. Some places restrict the number of animals you can bring. Some people will say you can only have 2 pets, especially in some of these age-restricted areas. So if you have concerns about what kind of pets you might bring in, definitely look into that, especially, well, also, like say if you have a townhouse. So I have a townhouse, my vacation home. It is a big pain in the neck. I got 3 dogs, I know. So the dogs, because it's so close together, you know, they're always barking because they see people walking or they go out in the patio and the neighbor's like right on top of you and then they bark. So just some of them will have pet restrictions or the fact that it's too close and your pets are going to have a cow because it's too close. So the other thing about having a dog or a cat, there's 2 things that if you're getting older, especially, or if you live alone, having a pet like that is very good because of the companionship. But other thing is studies have shown that women that have, or people that have a dog in the house, crooks are less likely to target you because they hear the dog barking and then they'll just move to the next house because they're scared of dogs, or that just adds an extra layer of difficulty into breaking into the house or whatever the evil plan that is that they have for you. So if you have a pet that you're bringing into the new home, consider that as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you find these 12 tips helpful. My name is Dawn Dickenson and I am a realtor in northern Arizona. If you ever have a question about real estate buying or selling in Arizona, please feel free to pick up the phone and give me a phone call or a text or an email. My contact information is always in the description below. And if you're thinking, I don't want to buy in Flagstaff or Sedona, but I'm interested in Phoenix, you could also reach out to me because I have several partners that work in the Phoenix metropolitan area, and I could always find a referral for you. So again, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing because I do videos like this every single week, and I would love it if you would come back and see what I have to post for you next week.